Hey guys, so we're back in the garage and today is the day. Today we're going to start wiring on the Cuda. Wiring is 50 years old in this car, so time to get it updated, freshed up. Gonna make it easier for anything in the future, for adding anything, accessories, electronic fans, AC, stuff like that. So I'm really amped about getting on this project and getting it done. Gonna make the car just a little bit more peace of mind, and too, any wiring in there that might be experiencing some corrosion or getting more brittle as time goes on. It's going to be really nice to get this full kit upgraded. So I'm going to show you what comes in the kit, and I got some extra tools to make it easier for crimping that they recommend, and I've seen a lot of recommendations just for getting the tools that they offer for this wiring kit. So no matter what, we're going to make sure that the car gets fully done and is ready to go for the future, and it's just one less thing I have to worry about down the road. So without further ado, let's skip the chit chat and let's get to it. Here we go. All right, so here it is. Here's the overall American AutoWire kit. So before I dive into what's all in the kit, some extra stuff that I got. My clock never worked since I got the car. The clock in these cars, the contacts go bad, so you have to take the dash apart and clean up the contacts every time. No longer. So going to quartz. And that will be really nice to actually have a clock that works. Just makes it feel like the whole dash will work and just not one part's broken. So I'm excited about that. And this, finally got a mile per hour gauge from Instrument Specialties. Again, the one in the car has been broken since I got it. So it'll be nice to actually replace that and it'll just look clean and normal like all the other gauges. So I open the box and it comes with instructions and this template. So we're gonna have to cut this out and put this on the car and drill the holes out and make the opening for the bulkhead for the fuse box, because again it's a different fuse box from the current one that's in there. So I'm excited about that. And then from everything I've seen, if you're going to do it, they offer and they sell their own crimpers, once for small, once for a larger gauge. People have attempted this without it and it's been a nightmare, and I'm trying to make this as easy as possible. So bam, diving into the kit. Courtesy lamp. This is going to be our rear body kit, and all these wires, I don't know if you can see it, are labeled for where they go. They come with instructions and diagrams in each individual package, so that'll be really nice to have. Instrument cluster kit, again comes with all the crimps and everything individually packaged for each section. Engine kit, and the length of the wiring that they give you is way more than you'll actually utilize, so you don't have to worry about the wire being too short. Just run it to where you need to, measure twice, cut once, right? So these are going to be our fuses and relays. Our front light kits, so headlights, turn signals, stuff like that. Cool. What else do we got? Okay, dimmer switch. I just put one in pretty recently, but if we got one, might be able to be an extra. Some extra crimps there. That's gonna be alternator main power kit harness, right? Wire. Yep. And along with those associated terminals. And this is the big boy. This is gonna be the dash kit. So all the wiring, all the connectors, big fuse blocks. That's where we're gonna have to cut the hole. It's nice that this is actually wired. Current fuse box, fuse panel in there doesn't have any of this labeling. So it's be nice to actually have all of that. And there's a bunch more for accessories. So AC, another accessory, maybe if I want to do fans later. So I'm excited about actually that and being onto normal fuses. But it's nice that it's all individually packaged per group. So I'm excited about this. And without further ado, let's just get at it. All right, so I just finished pulling the dash out of the car. You can take a look. It's way empty in there, which is kind of weird to kind of look at. But when I was pulling the dash out and I put it up on the workbench because there's stuff I need to do on it, I noticed something. So there it is, fully mounted up, ready to go. And I look down here and you can see it. Kid you not.
This is a key. I don't know how long that's been in there. That's got a ton of crud on there. This is the key for the car. Never had a spare, but I guess I do now. It's kind of crazy. Anyway, gonna go back to blasting stuff away, get back in the car, and keep going on the wiring. Just thought I'd share. Alright, so the clock is pretty much back together. One last final thing before I do the final assembly on it, and that's testing it. So I got hooked up some jumper wires here. I'm going to let it run for a couple hours, make sure that all the mechanism works the way that's supposed to before I do any final riveting, and then that's it. Then we're done for. So I'm going to let it test for a little bit, and now back doing some stuff on the dash. Alright, so the gauges are all back together. Got the speedometer fixed, got the clock tested, had it going for several hours. That's perfect, good to go, and ready to rock. Speedometer, when I actually put it in, I'm not going to be able to connect the actual cable because of the gearing in the rear end. So if I did, the speedometer would go all the way to the end, break the needle off like it happened to it before. So I'm not going to do that. I've driven off just the tack for a while. I'll have to get the gear in and get that replaced so it actually works correctly. Alright, have all the wiring done for the gauges. I try to make the routing as tight as possible to give you a lot of extra wire. So I want to make it as neat as possible and clumped together. One thing you know, if you get this kit, they don't run the ammeter. Alright, so the stock car runs ammeter for telling you how your alternator's doing, and it kind of powers everything in the car. A lot of people bypass it, they have some issues. It's kind of like the weak link, but they don't provide anything. So you have to run a voltmeter. The kit just tells you, hey, it's on you, do a voltmeter. So to remedy that situation, I went out and I got a voltmeter. So going to be doing the transition swap to this. So I had to break off the cap, take out the whole actual assembly of what really matters, and now I'm going to take out the old ammeter and replace it with this. Alright, so the dash is completely done. Back together, just want to show you how the voltmeter ended up looking. So that is it in there. Now there's a very specific type of voltmeter that you need to get. It's either a BOSH, here I got the thing, FST 7985. They don't make them anymore. They're allegedly discontinued. There's also another one that's a SUNPRO or something like that. Allegedly that's discontinued too. But you need those because the needle is at the top of the gauge and goes from right to left. Most of the voltmeters that are out there are the opposite. They're on the bottom. So that's just a quick note. They're out there. You just have to do some digging to try to find one if you are going to do this. It fit perfectly. Didn't have to hack anything up as far as like holes for getting it into the actual gauge slot. You're going to have to mess with the gauge itself, like disassemble it, pull it out of the whole assembly that it comes with to get it to fit in there. You need just the actual working gauge itself, not the whole cluster that it comes in. But it lines up great, fits in great, weren't any issues. And that's it. So now back to the rest of the stuff. Update. Okay, so dash is done, and now I get to move on to the engine bay. So I've taken out all the old wiring, factory wiring that was in the car, quite a bit. The only thing that's left in here currently is stuff for the MSD, which I've been running forever. I run that inside the car. I used to have it in the engine bay. And then water got into the old unit, fried it, and I had to get a new one. So now, lessons learned, stays inside the actual cab itself. Wiring for the air conditioning. And now it's time to wire up everything else. So, got everything here. Gonna lift the car up on the quick jacks to show you that, and start wiring the actual engine bay stuff. It is a lot less wiring than I was expecting. Considering all the wires that I took out of there, I thought it would be a decent amount that I would have to do. Not so bad. The wiring is definitely getting there. I mean, unplugging the headlights and plugs like that, they were super brittle and hard. So it was definitely showing its age for that wiring. Again, 50 years old. So now it's time to get this stuff going. Note, I learned that this kit, since it's GM style type of harness, it requires a one-wire alternator. I still have the old Mopar style of alternator, but I got one that's going to be coming in tomorrow, so I'll do all the wiring except the wire that goes to the actual alternator there. But I ended up upgrading it, got a 140 amp one coming in, so I'll be able to run my air conditioning if I want to do anything with electrical fans later. And I got some other stuff that I'll be doing down the road that requires some draw. So I wanted to go ahead and get something that will last me longer. But so far, just got everything cleared out. Ended up putting a new starter relay in, and this is a mega fuse that's used to kind of run everything. Got it mounted up there as close to the battery as possible. So for now, jack the car up, and gonna get jamming on getting all this wiring done in the engine bay. So let's get to it.
Engine harness is done. So that part's taken care of. A little bit of headaches here and there. It took me the longest time to get the starter actual nut off, not on the battery side, but the actual starter side of it. It was 11/32. I didn't have it. I had to go get a wrench. I tried everything I could to try to get it off. It was being a pain in the neck, bit the bullet, and made the trip. But it's done. Now, I had to do something a little different because I'm not using factory ignition. Let me show you. So I run an MSD box, so I don't run my valve resistor or the regular factory ignition. So I had to take my 12 volt ignition coming from the bulkhead along with the brown wire that's important to go with it, and ran that into the cab to where the MSD is stored. And I also ran the coil wire into there, but since I use a magnetic pickup for the distributor and all that jazz, tack wouldn't work normally, so I have a tack adapter that goes with that to make it work. So if your setup's factory, they have instructions for that, or if you're using different types of stuff, they have all the stuff there. So that's my setup. It's a little bit different. That's why that's like that. But I routed everything kind of as tight as possible, and I grouped it all by like subcategory and then main. So like, this is all the stuff that's going to the MSD. As far as from the bulkhead, this is MSD power coming from the box to the battery. I ran things for like starter relay. Those were bulked together, and the stuff that went down to the starter, I bulked all that together and routed it all, I think, pretty nicely. I'm happy with how it turned out into here, and then zip tied it so it makes like a mini harness, and each category is clumped together like that. So I'm really happy with that and how that came out. One thing I probably didn't see me actually hook up the blue wire. I use a manual style oil pressure gauge, so this is going to be hard to see unless you get a light. So hopefully you can see that. That wire goes, line goes up and into the dash. And I have a manual style gauge that's underneath there that I've been running. And I really like that because it gives you a number versus the regular gauge just says high and low. So I have to get an oil pressure sending unit and put it on the other side. There's another access port for that on the other side. So I'll put that in, run that blue wire, and then I'll have, just both gauges, and just to make it so every single thing on the dash works. I prefer the number of actually knowing my oil PSI versus high and low, but I'd rather have every gauge on the dash work. I went through all this trouble to rebuild all these gauges. So anyway, long story short, everything's hooked up, new alternators in. I just haven't tightened up the belt. All the wiring's done for the engine part of this. Now next I have to go do the other part of the harness coming out, which will be all the headlights, the front half for the lights. So that's what I'm doing next. But for now, I'm tired. It's been a long day, so I'm going to hop back here tomorrow and get jamming again. So for now, that's it. Headlight harness is completely done. So that was not too terrible. The old wire was definitely really, really old and showing its age, so I got everything run as super neat as I can. The harness does have some provisions for fog lamps, for electric fans, and for a water pump. I'm not using any of those currently, so I just kind of stashed all this stuff together. You saw how I was kind of running the headlight stuff. I'm just going to show you how I ended up running everything together. So this is where the headlight stuff goes, and it connects over to the other headlight, and back in there is for the side markers. Everything's kind of run pretty neat for the headlights and comes up right to the rail and goes over to the other side. For the turn signals in the front, the wires just kind of go straight down, and then I have it loomed all together in one kind of portion of the harness, just so it's neat and organized. I can tell what's what if I need to access anything down the road. I am also wiring my air conditioning kit in, so that part, all of that is done. Here's those extra wires I was talking about when it comes to, like, if I want to run electric fans or fog lights or water pump. I'm going to kind of stash that there, maybe on the other side of this to keep it kind of neat. But besides that, everything else in here is done. I will get some heat wrap to protect those wires. Like, I bundled them all together for now, temporarily, just for organization. And then I'll go through and heat wrap all of that so it's just protected and keeps the longevity of the wires in the long run. I don't want this wiring going bad. I want it for as long as possible because I don't want to go through and do this again. So what I have to do next is now get inside the car and do the dash, under the dash wiring. I currently have it just in. Now I need to organize it. They have it somewhat organized, but I want to kind of do a little bit better of a job that they have. And then go onto the rear body, which could be interesting. I'd pull out some stuff to get the wires through the back seat of the car into the trunk. Now, like I was saying, for this kit, it does come with a bunch of length for the wires. So that is just the stuff from this front headlight portion, front light portion of the kit. So plenty of extra wiring. It's like an extra, I would say, 2 feet, maybe even 3 per wire. So it's a lot. So it gives you plenty of space to kind of run how you want to for the wiring and organization wise. So I am happy about that. But for now, I'm just going to get jamming onto the stuff in the dash because that's going to be the biggest pain in the neck. And we're on the home stretch. So I'm going to get going on that and then try to put this dash on in today. So I'm going to get after it. So far, things have been going relatively smooth. Now, the pain of putting the dash in was done. We're ready to plug stuff in. We're rolling. We're almost there. And then a wrench gets thrown in the gears. So, dash is no longer in the car. It's over there. Why? Well, this is the wiper switch connector. Oh, the first things I go to plug in. And it doesn't fit. And I noticed something a little funny. So the instructions show this. No big deal. That's the main connector. Then you plug in this green and red for the motor feed. Well, problem here, champ, is that is 6. I can count. This is 5. The math ain't mathing. So I dove deep into the forums for a long time, wiring 2-speed wiper switch. Everything, and everybody had one of these that were the 6. So I was like, I must have the wrong wiper switch in here or something. I gotta figure it out. I gotta try to find part number or something, because replacements for these are like 200 something bucks for a switch. Yeah. So pull out the whole dash just to get this out, just so I could find the part number on here. And I was looking in my chassis manuals that I got, everything, and I look up the switch. It is the correct switch. One of the options. This is like a 72 and up option. not common for people, I guess, because every single forum, every single thing I found, I only found like 2, 3 results on Google, I think, when looking this up. And it was one guy selling it and one forum post of a guy asking about this thing. So, this is for you. Anybody that has a 5-prong, not a 6, 5-prong wiper switch of what we're going to do to wire this. So, the reason it's different is I don't have a electronic washer pump for fluid to wash those windows. I have nothing that electronically uses window washer fluid. I don't know if you can really see that, but down there is a little foot pump. So if I want to wash my windows, I gotta pump my foot on this thing and it'll shoot fluid onto the windshield. So anyway, now I'm gonna wire this up. So how am I gonna wire it? Because that connector that came with the harness isn't gonna work. It doesn't line up with these pins. So I went and got my connector off. Now you might be saying, hey, I see 6 wires coming out of this connector. My confusion as well, because one of these goes to absolutely nothing. And that was the wiper washer. So I'm going to have to de-pin this connector, de-pin, or I'll just cut off the wires on that connector from the new harness, repin it for this, and then install it in the car. So luckily, I mean, all the connections on here are labeled. I mean, it doesn't make sense where it says like F2, A, P, whatever, but it matches up with this. So the only thing that's going to change, just as a note if you're doing this, the green's going to remain the same, red's going to remain the same. Those are for the motor fields. Your dark blue is going to remain the same. That's for your park function. Your brown and white is going to be the same. That's for feed for the wiper motor. And then this pink one is going to be, if you're using American AutoWire, is going to be your white. So that's your 12 volt feed from the fuse box. And then this regular brown one, which is for the electric wash pump. If you don't have it, you don't need it. So, all right, that's long-winded. This is taking forever. But I'm going to get to it and start doing that. Okay.
All right, rear body harness is complete. Taillights, turn signals, backup lights, license plate, all of that is done and loomed and wired. So with that, the entire car wiring wise is done. Now it's done with everything else I need to do, like putting the rear seat back in. No. Putting the headlight bezels and stuff back on. No. But I don't care. The car is done wiring wise, and that's what we were aiming for. I'll get to that other stuff at another point in time, but I wanted to show you guys at least the wiring. This was a huge project because wiring is terrifying, at least for me. This is the first time I've ever done any big electrical wiring stuff, and here we are. So I did get the battery hooked up. Sitting on keys, that would be helpful. So battery's hooked up, and so far we already got clock. Hopefully you can see that. Oh yeah, first time I've had the car and the clock has worked on it, so that's awesome. So with that, I know the steering column isn't fully installed, but it's okay, we'll live. All right, here are the relay, headlights, high beam indicator, left, right, hazards. Let's see the air conditioning, if that's actually going to work or not. Ooh, it works. It works. Love to see that. And it's a little bit late, so I'm not going to crank it. We'll start the car fully, but I'll at least hit the key and just double check that works. Okay. With that, the wiring for the Cuda is done. Fully rewired. American AutoWire harness was really good. I'm glad I went with something like that. Few recommendations and things I kind of learned. If you're going to do this, and you happen to have one of these, the Crimpers, super great. Recommend those. Highly recommend. I wish I kind of knew beforehand, but the one-wire alternator, need one of those. You need a voltmeter if you're going to switch, or just not use the ammeter if you're just going to leave that blank on your dash. You can. But voltmeter, you're going to need that BOSH or that SUNPRO one. I would recommend a good set of wire strippers. The ones I had were pretty janky and was kind of super frustrating to deal with. But again, the car is done. It's a huge relief. The wiring was super old. I've said that like a billion times. But if you're looking to do this yourself, hopefully this helps you, especially if you have that weird wiper switch issue like me, and you're one of the people out there, one of the 5 prongs, not the 6. I hope that definitely you pay attention to that and that helps you out for there. So with that, car is done. There's obviously stuff I need to do. There's a mess. The rear seat's not in it and other stuff, but I'll get going on and stuff. But for now, the car's fully rewired. I'll work on the rest of the stuff getting cleaned up later. I just wanted to share this with you guys and hopefully enjoy. Thanks for checking it out.